Basketball stars always seem to find themselves in the public's eye. Sometimes it's their legendary skills. Sometimes it's their legendary mistakes. Athletes like Barkley seem invincible, but they're just like us. They fall prey to everyday things such as accidents, people, and even addiction. Barkley's love for gambling was well known to the public, but nobody knew how bad it was getting. How did Charles Barkley almost lose it all to gambling? Barkley was always meant to be a basketball player. In college, he played position, even though he was shorter than the average center. He was highly talented and immediately earned his place on the team, earned the nickname the Round Mound of Rebound because he was one of the heavier players on the team. Despite his weight, Barkley outshined most other players on the court. Despite these hurdles, Charles proved to be an exciting star and a team player. He was just as likely to pass the ball as he was to charge down the court and make a two-handed dunk. Barkley was also fantastic at blocking shots and would regularly shut down the other team's shooters. In college, Barkley won quite a few awards, including the SEC Player of the Year award in 1984. Later, he got Player of the Decade for the 80s. After his third year in college, Barkley left school and went in the 1984 NBA Draft. He was the 5th overall pick by the 76ers, just 2 picks after the Bulls chose Michael Jordan. At the start of his NBA career, he was mentored by Moses Malone, who taught him how to control his weight and prepare for games. He was traded to the Phoenix Suns in 1992 and took over the team as the leader. He appeared on either the first or second All-NBA team for 7 years in a row, and he won the MVP in 1993. In 1992, the Olympics rules changed and NBA players were finally allowed to compete. Barkley, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and other NBA stars were dubbed the Dream Team. They never lost a single game and brought back the gold for Team USA in 1992 and 1996. Barkley always remained popular with fans and sponsors alike. He had endorsements from Nike, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Right Guard, and many others. He had a brilliant way of keeping himself in the public's eye through controversy on the court and very outspoken opinions off of it. He even got some time on the big screen alongside Michael Jordan in the original Space Jam. Barkley's storied career had many ups and downs as he was no stranger to controversy. Barkley once held an NBA record for the biggest fine levied against a player after an on-court fight with Pistons center Bill Laimbeer cost them $162,000 each. In 1991, Barkley's first big controversy hit when he spit on a fan. During a game against the New Jersey Nets, Barkley was being heckled by a fan. He says that the fan called him racial slurs and boiled his blood to the point that he tried to spit on him. Barkley isn't the world's most accurate spitter. He accidentally hit a little girl instead. Barkley was fined $10,000 and suspended for a game. Since then, he has developed a good relationship with the girl and her family. During an interview post-retirement, Barkley said the spitting incident was the only thing he regretted during his career. Barkley ended up embroiled in another controversy when critics called into question his opinion of NBA stars as role models. He was quoted as saying, "A million guys can dunk a basketball in jail. Should they be role models?" He had a strong belief that just because they're professional athletes doesn't mean they have to be role models. This controversy led him to get a big payday with his Nike "I'm not a role model" commercials.
I am not a role model.
Despite his hot take opinions and aggressive on-court play, Barkley stood right beside Michael Jordan as one of the most beloved players of their time. Between his salary, endorsements, and media appearances, Barkley secured a pretty hefty bank account. But there was another source of income hidden in the background. Little known to many at the time was the severity of Barkley's vice of choice, gambling. Barkley had a gambling addiction that first reared its ugly head in 1990 when he made in-game wagers with a Knicks player. After the game, he thought it was a good idea to tell the media about their side bets. This infuriated NBA Commissioner David Stern, who fined them both $5,000 for their involvement in the bet. The league frowned severely on gambling within the sport and looked to make an example of the players involved. This, however, would not deter Barkley from his love of gambling. The snowball was forming. You can imagine that with all that money at his disposal, Barkley could win big or lose even bigger, and you'd be right. During a 2006 interview, the future Hall of Famer said that he had lost $2.5 million in around 6 hours. When asked how much he thought he'd lost in total, he responded with around $10 million. But that was before the height of his gambling problem. Barkley hit a stroke of luck in 2007 when he won $700,000 playing blackjack and betting on the Super Bowl. Barkley was aware he had a gambling problem, but didn't think it was that big of a deal. He told reporters,
"It's a stupid bad habit. I have a problem. But the problem is when you can't afford it."
Barkley seemed to have a classic case of denial on his hands. This statement would prove wrong, though, when in May of 2008, Barkley was sued by a casino that he owed $400,000 to for unpaid debts. Barkley quickly paid them back and settled all the fees. But it does beg the question, how come someone so rich hadn't paid their debt? In all, Barkley claims to have lost $30 million in Las Vegas over his gambling career. He took a 2-year, circa 2008, to fill the void. He started golfing with Michael Jordan. However, betting $100,000 on a round of golf probably wasn't good for Barkley's problem. With all the money and egos rolling around in sports, it is the perfect storm for gambling addictions to pop up. Some of the most famous figures in sports have had gambling problems. Michael Jordan, arguably the best of all time, was a well-known risk-taker. His gambling problem dated back to high school, where he wrote a letter to his prom date thanking her for paying up on a bet he'd won. Who the heck makes bets with their prom date? He went straight into college with this same mentality and made bets over everything, from cards to pool. He even wrote a check out for $5 once after losing a game, and that person later sold it at an auction for $12,300. Unlike Barkley, Mike always denied the allegations and tried to hide his gambling to protect his image. But when you're as famous as Michael Jordan, you don't get away with much. Jordan began to bet heavily during his NBA career, and even though he would deny it in interviews, it was well known that he had a problem. Barkley, in good spirits, threw Jordan under the bus when he revealed that Mike was willing to bet $300,000 on one golf putt. Jordan's addiction was so famous that SNL parodied it. The skit even featured Charles Barkley, played by Kenan Thompson, showing up to bet on a locker room quarters game. The documentary series The Last Dance dives deep into Jordan's gambling habits. These are also classic examples like MLB player and manager Pete Rose, who admitted to betting on his own team, the Cincinnati Reds. It seems as though, for whatever reason, gambling is very prevalent among athletes. Another pretty famous example of gambling in pro sports comes from New York Yankees star Alex Rodriguez, who in 2009 was reportedly seen in an illegal high-stakes poker game in Beverly Hills. Barkley was always open about his political views. Throughout the 90s, he was an outspoken supporter of the Republican Party. He was quoted as saying,
"I was asked for years about being a Republican, probably because most black people are Democrats. My mother heard it once and called me and said, 'Charles, Republicans are for the rich people.' And I said, 'Mom, I'm rich.'"
It wasn't until 2006, when he was discussing running for governor of Alabama, that he denounced the Republican Party and endorsed the Democrats after saying,
"I was a Republican until they lost their minds."
Then, in 2008, he announced that he'd bought a house in Alabama to satisfy his 7-year live-in state rule to run for governor in 2014. He also stated that he would run as an independent. While he never could give gambling up for good, Barkley stated that he loves the action of it too much. He did slow down considerably and taught himself some level of moderation. However, Barkley's definition of moderation is probably different than ours. The man did lose $30 million in Las Vegas and turned out just fine. These days, you can find Barkley giving his professional opinion as an NBA analyst for TNT. Unfortunately, problem gambling will always be attached to the Barkley brand, as it was so prominent in his life for so many years. During a video chat with Barkley and Shaq, former President Barack Obama made a joke at Barkley's expense. When Shaq said that he didn't have as much money as Barkley, Obama responded with, "That's because you don't visit Vegas as often as he does." When Shaq asked Barkley how he felt about the president knowing about his gambling addiction, he replied as casually as ever, saying,
"It's all over TV. I can't hide it."
It seems as though the NBA legend is no worse for the wear due to his gambling. Did he get his problem under control, or does he have enough money to bankroll his addiction? Either way, today Barkley leads a happy life, enjoying his retirement from the NBA and his job as an analyst across from his longtime friend, Shaquille O'Neal. Click to watch one of these next videos.